Hello, this is Alicia J with New VA Advice, and we're here today with Lesson 2, Session 1 of the Business Workshop series. This lesson is entitled Thinking and Acting Like a Business Owner. So let's get started. In order to think and act like a business owner, I have a couple of tips for you today. Let's face it, most of us, our experience working in the world is as an employee. So it's different when you own a business, which is what you're doing here, getting clients, offering services. This is a real thing. It's a business. You should treat it as such. And you want to be taken seriously as a business owner. You're an entrepreneur. You are not someone's employee. This is a big shift to make for some people. And some of us struggle with it, others find it easier to manage. Either way, I want to give you my top tips to get through this process. These are mindset things that are going to help you think more like a business owner versus an employee. So the very first tip, you should be treating this business like a business and not a hobby. That's so important. I'm not saying that it can't be fun, but you should be committing some time to your business. We make time for the things that are important to us. I will say that again. We make time for the things that are important to us. So in order to make sure you have time to work on this business, you may need to talk with friends or family, maybe about supporting you, telling them why this is important to you, and maybe getting them to take over something else that you're responsible for in your life so that you have time to fit this in. Perhaps that's a situation you have to look at. The other thing to consider here is setting some kind of schedule. Now, when I say set a schedule, I don't mean it has to be exactly the same thing all the time every day. But what I mean is this is going to help you make time to work on your business. And then ultimately, right now, you're focusing on time to work on the business and create it. Then there's going to be time to work on, that's going to turn into marketing time. And then that will turn into working on client work time. So you see, you have to start somewhere. You have to start with a schedule that makes sense for you. How do you do that? I love using what I call a time block method. I didn't come up with it, but this is what has always worked best for me. Because let's face it, you have other things going on in your life. You have other commitments. Maybe you're still working your full-time job while you're setting up this business. Maybe you have family responsibilities or other things going on that take up some of your time. So think about blocks of time that you could commit to working on your business. Now, this is going to be different for everyone, and you may have to play with this for a bit before you figure out a schedule that works for you. But I've found every time I work with someone in this process, once they get this down and figure it out, it makes it a lot easier for them because they know when they're going to be working on their business. So for example, for you, maybe there are certain mornings that you are able to get up before anyone else and you have some quiet time to work on things. Maybe it's in the evening after everyone goes to bed. Maybe you get a really long lunch break and you want to work on things then. Maybe you save it up for the weekends because that's where you have a long stretch of time to work on things. So you are the only one that's going to know what works best for you. And then decide how much time in those time blocks do you have. Maybe it's 15 to 20 minutes some days. Maybe other days it's an hour or two. See, so it doesn't always have to be, I'm not telling you find 8-hour blocks of time in a row that you need to spend working on your business. It's little pockets. Find little pockets that work for you. And sometimes you'll have to move and shift them around, right? Things come up. Life happens. We have to take someone to a doctor's appointment unexpectedly, or your dog to the vet, or something comes up. You know how this is, right? But if you have some type of a schedule, a time block schedule that you're working on, you can then move things around and make sure that you're still getting the time in that you want to work on your business. So to make this schedule the most effective for you, here's what I suggest. You kind of figure out the blocks, the pockets of time that will work for you, or even just try it, maybe set that up for just like a week or two and see how that goes. Now, what do you do when those time blocks come up on your schedule? Number one, I want you to honor it, just like you would anything else. You have other commitments that you feel are important, and when those things come up on your schedule, you honor it. You take your kids to the dentist, you go to your doctor's appointment, you attend that meeting at work, whatever it might be. You put those things in as important, right? And then you honor it when that comes up in your schedule. I want you to do the same thing. honor yourself with this, right? This is something that you really want. So honor yourself. And when that time comes up on the schedule, don't skip it. Use the time to work on your business. What are you doing during that time? Well, we'll get to different pieces during this course, but basically think about what needs to be done in the order that you're working on your business, which is exactly what we're going through in this course. I'm giving you pieces, step by step, of what to do to set it up. So look at those pieces, maybe make a list, however it works for you to do that, all the things that you need to do. And look at each of those items to see if any of those needs to be broken down into smaller bits. That's a good possibility. Think about it. For example, let's say an item that you're working on is create your website. Well, that's too big of a piece by itself. Chunk that down. What all is involved in creating a website? You have to write copy for pages, you have to buy a domain name, you have to get hosting, you have to figure out your layout. All those little pieces, those are all under the bigger item of create a website, right? So I'm not saying you have to do that right now. I'm just giving you an example of something. The more you can chunk things down, the better, because otherwise you're going to get to an item that you need to work on and you're going to feel too overwhelmed because the item you wrote down is too big. It needs to be broken down further into action steps. Okay, so you have these pockets of time that you've created in your schedule. You have this long list of things that you want to get done. Now you've chunked them down into smaller to-do items. Now, when your pockets of time come up in your schedule, you don't have to say, what the heck am I supposed to be working on right now? Look at your list that you made. Look at those action items. Get to work. That is how you make the schedule work for you. Mindset tip number 2, know your why. Why are you starting your business? You may have thought about it before, but I want you to really consider it and really think about it. Why are you doing this? And an answer of I need to make money is not deep enough. What is that money affording you? So what is it? If it's time flexibility, what is it giving you? Is it because you want to spend more time with your family? Is it because you want to travel or be location independent? What are those things doing for you? What is your big why? Why was this so important to you to do? So really come up with that. And then I want you to post that somewhere where you can see it. You could write it on a sticky note, just jot down some notes about your why and put it on a sticky note. You can create a vision board out of it. You can put it in an app on your phone or make it your screensaver. Have it in front of you always. It's so important because our thoughts become things, and this is something you're seeing all the time, and if it's in front of you all the time, it's going to be ingrained into you, and it's also going to help you focus, because I know sometimes we get distracted or overwhelmed when it comes to everything. If you see that why out in front of you, though, you're more likely to go ahead and follow through with what you were going to do. So the same thing with goals. If you'd prefer to, take your why and also break down some goals you have, post them as well. Put them where you can see, or like I said, make a vision board. Everyone's different on what's going to work for them and what they enjoy doing. So make it something fun and something that you want to look at. And then with these things that you're putting out there to remember and remind you and be in front of you, you can also look at those action items that we talked about. So your short-term to-do list, maybe the things that you need to get done in your next only 2 to 3 pockets of time, have that list out. Again, it's going to reduce the overwhelm. It's going to help you focus. It's going to remind you why you're doing this. I promise you it works. You're taking one small step at a time, but each of those steps builds on each other and it's all moving forward. This is how you do this and build this business. It's never going to be an overnight success. No one is. You know that there's always something more behind the scenes that go on with people that you see are successful now. You take these steps now and you're creating habits, and that's what I want for you. And then the final piece of this is I want you to boost a positive entrepreneurial mindset. So what are things that can make you feel good about what you're doing here? Whatever that might be for you. Maybe it's a book that you want to read that's going to help support you in your goals. Maybe it's a podcast to listen to or a blog that you're following. Whatever that is, come up with something that helps you stay in a positive mind frame and think entrepreneurially about what you want in your life and in your business. So tip number 3 when it comes to this concept of thinking and acting like a business owner is to set client boundaries. And this is so important to do from the beginning. Some of it is a learn as you go, but I'm going to give you my best tips on what you can do right from the start, at the beginning of your business, that will help you to maybe not make same mistakes other people have made, but also to set up good, healthy boundaries. So here's the thing. Remember, please, this is your business. So you set your boundaries and you decide how to let others treat you. I'm going to repeat that. You set the boundaries and you decide how to let others treat you. So remember, you're not working for anyone else. You call the shots, you make the decisions in your business. You are not working for a client. You can work with a client. Do you hear the difference in that? You are not their employee. Therefore, that means the client is not the person that gets to make the decisions and tell you what to do. You set your schedule, you set your rates. So when you're thinking about the kinds of services that you want to offer, we talked in the last lesson about services in your market. Be realistic with your schedule. Think about the kind of services you want to offer, and are you going to be able to do those in the schedule that you want to set aside right now? And again, remember, your schedule can change. So for right now, maybe you're doing this at part-time, not full-time right away with your business. So you need to be able to work around your full-time work schedule. So think about that with the services that you're offering right now. Remember, you can start small with one set of services and then increase over time to eventually leave your job if that's something you're wanting to do and build your business full-time, but you have to start somewhere. So think about a schedule that works for you, and that should be in your mind when you are having a client consultation, for example, and hearing what they need from you. You need to know, is that going to work for you or not? So they are not choosing when you work. You choose when you work, but then match up your services with the right kind of person so that everyone's happy in that situation. Same thing for your rates. You set your rates. And I know in the beginning, this can be a tough one because you want to get that first client, right? You want to see some income so that you can say, okay, I'm doing it. This is really happening. This is going to be successful. I totally get that. But you get to decide how much you're making. We will talk about rates in another lesson. And that's going to be in session 2 of the workshops. So that's kind of the second round of things we get into rates. But the piece I want to say about it here is that's your decision to set those rates, not your client's decision. So let me give you an example that might help you think about this more. Think about a hair salon or barber, whatever you might go to. You don't come in and tell them when they should be open or how much you're going to decide to pay them, right? They have hours and they have rates that they charge. If you don't want to pay the rate, you have to go somewhere else and get your hair cut. You can't say, well, I want this and this and this and this done, but I only want to pay this much money. No, they're going to tell you, here are my rates. If you want something else, then you can choose from this menu, for example, but this is what I could do at that rate. So that's the same thing for you with your clients. It's your responsibility to decide what you're charging and then see if they're a good match. We will get into that in session 2 of how to handle that with clients. But again, to me, this is part of a mindset and thinking and acting like a business owner and things that I want you to be thinking about right off the bat. Next is communication with clients. It's so important. And yes, this is a piece where you might have to learn a little bit as you go and what works best, but it's so great to have a discussion with them up front about when and how you're going to communicate with each other. It's going to set the expectation for things. So for example, decide how often you're going to check in with each other and what ways you're going to do that. Maybe it's email, maybe it's phone calls, whatever that might be. This shouldn't be a situation where they need to peek in and see what you're doing every minute of every day to check on you, because you are not an employee. You are two business owners coming together to work together on their business. So they don't need to be checking in and counting hours and, tell me what you're doing every second. That's not how it should be. But again, you're setting up these expectations from the beginning And then you decide on that communication between the two of you, what's going to work best for the two of you to communicate with each other, when and how. So some of these things you can put in your contract, which we will get into in another lesson talking about contracts. But what I see sometimes, which can be very helpful, is you decide some of these things up front. That information goes in your contract, but then you might come up upon an experience or a situation that happens with the client. Learn from it, whether it's positive or negative. Always think, what can I take from this? What lesson can I learn? Learn from the experience, and then maybe you want to tweak something in your contract later to match that situation. Always something to just keep in mind off the bat. So, you have some of these main things in the contract, but as you live and learn, you may tweak it and add something later. You learn a situation from a client and you say, well, I don't want to handle it that way for the next client. So I'm going to go in and tweak my contract for my next person so that when I get that next new client, this is my new normal. Okay. So those are my biggest tips for thinking and acting like a business owner. Let me just recap. We're talking about treating your business like a business, not a hobby, knowing your why, and setting client boundaries. All of those pieces will really help to set you up for success when it comes to truly feeling and being a business owner. So your action steps, what can you do next? First thing I want you to do is for yourself, post your why. Again, wherever it is that you're going to see it, sticky note, screensaver, phone screensaver, vision board, whatever that is for you. I want you to figure out a schedule with that time block method, that pockets of time. Like I said, even if it's just picking 1 to 2 weeks to start with and see if that works for you. And then the last thing is you're going to see on your resources page, of course, you'll have this video and the slides from this video. And I am also going to give you, I have an ebook called Shedding the Employee Mindset. It goes into some of these mindset pieces in a little more detail. And that's going to be there for you. You can pick that up and read through it and take what you need out of that. And then, of course, you'll also see on your resources page, there's going to be a link. I'd love for you to come into the Facebook group. You will see a thread for lesson 2, which is what we're on here. And post what you need in there. For example, what questions do you have? Do you want to share your why with us? You can share it in the thread. Maybe you want to tell me what your schedule is when you've decided that you're going to work on your business. Maybe there are some of those employee mindset things that are still holding you back, or you can't quite wrap your head around, how to handle that, or certain situations when it might come with, employee client versus business owner. So that's what the Facebook thread's going to be for. Hop in there. Let me know how things are going, or just in general, your feelings on the course so far. Okay, so that is it for today. I hope you're having a great one, and I will see you in the next lesson.